For our opening sequence research, we had ourselves had to research 6 opening sequences that we think would help us with our development of ours. So I did 6, and the first one I did was Skyfall by James Bond, because obviously James Bond films are known for their spectacular opening sequences, but this one was a bit weird. The song Skyfall by Adele it creates quite a sombre, quite mysterious mood, because normally James Bond is a thriller or an action adventure, so you'd expect to be you're thrilled from the moment it starts. But this one is it's mellow, and it's quite it makes you intrigued to see what happens, because this super spy, James Bond, right, if you're a fan of the films, you'll know that this spy, he's meant to be invincible. He's never died before, and now suddenly he looks like he's dead. So I think it definitely makes you want to know what happened, especially as he's falling for the sea. That's quite murky and misty. So I think overall it's a lot different from any other James Bond opening sequence I've ever seen, because I think it, rather than thrills you, it more intrigues you. So the second one I did was Django Unchained by Quentin Tarantino. This one surprised me a little bit, because if you know Quentin Tarantino, he's quite a spontaneous director, like Pulp Fiction and such. But this opening to Django is quite a lot different from any other film I've seen by him. The music, for a start, is quite mellow and it's a western, so the guitar is quite slow. So I think with the music, because it's like that slow, you already know it's a film about revenge. This could also be tied in with like the lighting on like the left side of Django's face, which I think it makes it look like he's dark, a dark character, and who wants revenge, and that is ultimately the film. Also, I think that the camera techniques in the film are very good, because at the start it's just an establishing shot of the set, but then it kind of, once you zoom in, you realise that this is slavery, and I think that the whole set just kind of indicates what a dark time that was for America, and with the slavery, and especially people like Django who wanted to fight for their freedom. The third film I researched was Paranormal Activity 4, one of the scariest films I've ever seen. I think with Paranormal Activity 4, the opening sequence is vital, because it's a horror, and for a horror it's very important to set the mood, because once you walk into a horror, you don't expect happy ukulele music, like upbeat. You want the aim of horror is to scare you, and I think Paranormal Activity does that very well. First of all, the music at the start, I think that's quite, in a horror, obviously it's quite slow. Piano, I think it's quite mellow, which kind of intrigues you a bit to see what's happened. Also, the camera shot in the opening sequence is very clever with the security camera. It looks like it's from your point of view, but actually, well, it's not. But it looks like you're in the film, so that creates a lot of tension. The lighting around the set, obviously it's a horror, so there's not much light, but I think where there is light, there is probably danger as well. And I think the darkness just around the house at the start, that indicates to you that the house will be the main point of the paranormal activity. So I think Paranormal Activity sets the mood really well, and I think with the film you're more scared at the start than you are at the end, because it does a brilliant job of building up tension. The fourth film I researched was Superbad, the comedy Superbad. I think Superbad is probably one of the best comedies I've ever seen, not just because it's funny, because the opening sequence. I think what's really good about this sequence in Superbad is many things, but the music. I think the music really gets you in the mood for the comedy, if you want already, because I think in a comedy the music has to be, really upbeat, kind of happy music. Otherwise, if it was a comedy and it was drab music, you wouldn't expect it to be a comedy, and you wouldn't want to watch it because it wouldn't look like a comedy. But I think Superbad, what it does well is, the funky kind of pop 80s music, along with the brilliant kind of bright colours like green, orange, red. I think it really gets you in the mood for comedy and makes you want to watch it, because if the opening sequence looks funny, then the likelihood is the film's going to be good as well. I think also like the lighting on the opening sequence, although it's mostly CGI, I think like the different like kind of shades of the colours is good, like the light, and although it's mostly CGI, as I said before, although it is, I think that if I was going to do a comedy opening sequence, which we are, I think I'd try and put as much as I could from Superbad in there, because it is a brilliant example of how to get the audience in the mood for a comedy. The fifth film I did, researched, was The Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk, being a Marvel comic, is obviously an iconic, like, huge character throughout film, and Marvel superhero films, and obviously action adventure. So I think with the opening sequence in the Hulk, it's important to kind of have a fast, kind of upbeat start to get your audience in the mood for an action adventure, and I think Hulk does that very well. There's the music. The music is quite fast, upbeat. It's got a kind of heavy drum and bass, so it's quite uplifting. The colours on the screen. I'm not an artist, but the green text on the black background, I think, was a good colour contrast. And something that I haven't said for the other four is the font, because I think with Hulk, he's such a powerful, strong character. I think to make the font bold, sharp, and strong, I think that's a really good way to symbolise symbolise Hulk and what he stands for. The last film I researched was Sinister, the horror Sinister. As I said before, with Paranormal Activity 4, the opening sequence in a horror is so important, because the mood has to be right. Because for me, a good horror film, I want to be scared. I think if a horror film doesn't scare you, then it's not a horror. It shouldn't be a horror. But I think what Sinister does really well is, I think the setting in the opening sequence is brilliant, because it's the back of a garden, and it's just the lonesome kind of tree in the middle with kind of mist and fog around it, which is quite cliche, but I think it does set the mood. I think it does scare you. But also another thing to note is obviously the lack of light would obviously add to the effect as well. But I think the setting of the normal suburban house, I think, is brilliant, because normally in horrors you'll have the horror in like a country cottage or a mansion or an old house, but to have like the opening sequence in like a suburban house in the middle of a neighbourhood, and have like paranormal activity around that, I think is quite original. I think if I was going to do a horror or any opening sequence, I think it's important to be original and do things that not other people don't really do. So I think Sinister, although I'm not doing a horror film, I think with my opening sequence, which is comedy, I think we are still going to try and be original and do something and set it places that people wouldn't expect and wouldn't have done before.